Jim Duke Radio Network.
A rational voice in a world of conspiracy. Jim Duke Perspective.
All right, so Darrin, you got a topic. I don't know. You going to turn us into a tabloid?
We can change this name to Jim Duke Inquirer.
Yeah,
how's that sound?
That's right. But you have some evidence. I'm not even going to say what you have, but
right.
you want to talk about this Sasquatch thing.
Yes, this is going off the beaten path here, but I'm going to show how this can relate to the secret societies. The question is, does this thing actually exist? If so, what's the origin of it? And
what's the purpose?
Is the government suppressing the information?
Yeah.
And how does it relate to secret societies and the elites and all that? So,
I'll bite on that. All right. Now,
cool,
is Sasquatch the same as Bigfoot? They're two different names for the same thing.
They're synonymous terms. In fact, there's many different terms for this creature's name depending on which culture you're talking to. Like there's the abominable snowman, the skunk ape, yeti, Sasquatch, Bigfoot. A lot of different names I can't even pronounce. So that should tell you something right there. Like why does all these cultures, people who have never met each other, have the same exact description of some type of big hairy bipedal, ape-like, human-like creature that roams, the remote forests. And that's what we're going to discuss tonight, and how it, is it actually real? And I'll tell you, I've been studying this topic for years. I love this ever since I was little. You see In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy, you see the most famous video of that's the Patterson-Gimlin film. Yeah. And that's with the late John Patterson and Robert Gimlin. Now, Robert Patterson, he passed on, but he was the one that actually filmed that creature. We all seen that one when he's walking across. That's Bluff Creek, California. There. Right. That's October 20th, 1967, Bluff Creek. But Roger Patterson, actually they named the creature a Patty because it's a female, because you can see the breasts on it. But Bob Gimlin, he didn't believe in these things before, but as soon as I seen that, he's like, these things really do exist. He didn't get a penny for this. The only thing that it caused was strife between him and his wife. So Bob Gimlin, you can Google him, his testimony on YouTube. So, and that was back in 1967. And we've had about, I think, 5 different experts in each field, like morphology, anthropology, videography, everything, animatronics. They all, studied this film right here, the Patterson-Gimlin film. They all unanimously said it could not have been a human.
Well, but let's just backtrack for a second before you go on. That video is one of the most famous videos. I've seen it as a kid. I've seen it throughout the years. And just to premise this, Darrin, I too had been a inquisitive on this phenomena, this Bigfoot, as a kid. I looked at all the reports. The footage and all this. There was this movie it's documentary. Do you remember the documentary on Bigfoot?
There's several documentaries.
Yeah, this one was in the movies. I actually saw it in the movies, I think.
Oh, that's A Legend of Boggy Creek?
I don't remember. It wasn't a story, but it was an actual documentary.
Mm-hmm. Well, History Channel has many.
And it scared the crap out of me because the one, the woman was in the living room and she heard a noise and it went through the window or something. Was that that one?
Yes. There was one. You mean actually it was a movie you were saying, a documentary movie?
Yes.
At the movie theater.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that was,
and that scared me, and that one scared me. But we're always fascinated with these supernatural, and I have to say supernatural because it still is, even though it's physical. We don't know what they are. We don't really. They don't seem to appear out in public. It's not like you see them in the woods every day. You don't see them walking down the street. And I was infatuated by it. Now, there's one case that you're talking about. Some guy came out and said that he was the Bigfoot. And now that the guy's dead, he says, I could come out and tell you that he paid me $1,000 to put on this suit and walk around, and that's what you see filmed. He's claiming to be the hoaxer.
Yeah, I like how you're countering what I'm saying. That's great. Well, here's my answer to that rebuttal. I should say my rebuttal to that question. There's a man that actually studied what he was just claiming. First of all, this Patty, we'll call her, we had experts analyzing the film first of all, and they thought it was a 12 millimeter, but it turned out to be a 25 mil. No, they thought it was a 25 millimeter. It turned out to be a 12.5, I believe, and that changes the size around drastically. This puts the creature at, they can calculate within about 2 inches of the height, so it somewhere between 7'4" and 7'6", and then they do the compression foot ratios in the soil soon after, and it turns out that this creature weighed between 700 to 900 pounds. Now, if you look at the wrestler Andre the Giant, he's 7'5", but he's the top weight. He was like 500 pounds. So this is about 300 pounds more. So that's because muscle weighs about 3 times more than fat. I'm not calling Andre fat, but he wasn't 2% body fat, if you know what I'm saying. So that's unless that was Andre the Giant with lead carrying a 300 pounds of lead, it had to be something other than a human.
Yeah, but he looks like a guy walking. He looks like a guy that's just walking.
Well, here's the thing, though. They did, like I said, they had morphology experts. They had anthropologists. They said the anatomical structure of Patty renders it unhuman. It was impossible to be a human because the proportional ratios, like the thigh bones and the humerus, and in relation to the torso and the arms. You look at Patty's arms; the hands almost go down to the knees.
Yeah, well, I mean, that could be a costume, though.
Right. Well, no. If it was a costume, even the most advanced Hollywood special effects costumes would pale in comparison to this. And this was back in 1967. You can actually see hair attached to the muscles, the striations of the calf muscles and the hamstrings, and you can see a growth on the right thigh, the breast. I mean, just there was hair attached to muscles, so this was not a suit. There was no folds in it, no wrinkles. This thing was just dense. It was just.
Well, look at this one on this screen. Look at that one. That's real.
Fake.
That is real.
That's. See.
I'm not gonna. I showed him a picture of a guy that's dressed up as a costume. All right.
Can you show them Patty now? Get a picture of Patty.
Yeah, I did.
Real quick.
I already had it up.
Oh, you did. Okay, good.
I played the video, but for people that are watching it on video. So anyway, all right. So Darrin, go ahead with your presentation. I broke in there with that little tidbit. All right, go ahead.
No, that was good. That's where you can show, just like we have Elvis impersonators, which lends credibility to the fact that Elvis existed, just like we have a lot of, fake pranksters walking around in Bigfoot costumes. Why? Because there must be Bigfoot, Now, if you look at the number of estimated Squatch in the U.S., the continental U.S. alone, they estimated between about 5,000 to 10,000. We'll say 5,000 now. If you break that down, that's 50 per state. If I did my math right. Wait, is that right? No, 100 per state. Okay, now you just break that down in quarters. You just keep the quarter it down. So that would come out to like one Squatch every, like in New York State, it'd be like I think it's like 12, I don't know how many miles, but it's just a vast amount. Now you go to Google Earth and look at that amount of trees and that amount of area and just finding one Squatch. No wonder why we don't run into them. Like, we run into people or bears, so.
Yeah, well, people but how do they, all right, so if there's so few of them, how do they even mutate? How do they, not mutate, how do they procreate?
Procreate? Well, just like humans, I guess, yeah. Well, the thing is, that's the question.
Of them. They die out soon. There's not a lot.
Well, the thing is, now we're getting into the origin of them. What, did God create them? Did they disembark from Noah's Ark? Or are they a government, creation? So that's the question.
Oh.
Now, I don't have actual factual proof of this, but people have said that they've seen orbs floating around. When they see them, they see like their equipment kind of malfunctions. So we have some type of spiritual or supernatural activity associated with these things. Not every time, but sometimes, which tells me that perhaps it's something other than. It could also be spiritual. It could be, I don't know, I want to say demonic, but it could be like the Nephilim type creature.
Yeah, I've heard things like, because they're so tall and big. And
yeah, they range, the females obviously are smaller, but they range from 7 feet to 9. And I guess in Alaska, they can go up to like 15 feet, which would be double the size of Patty almost.
Yeah. Now why would a Nephilim choose to take a hairy form of a gorilla type of thing?
Well,
I just have that question. Out of all the beings, avatars they could take, why do they come out as a hairy creature?
Well,
primitive hairy creature.
put it this way, there's a testimony of the soldiers in, I think it was Iraq, just a couple of years ago, and they actually seen a cave, and they went up to the cave, and they just seen some strange stuff, and sure enough, there was a Nephilim that came out of the cave. I had like red hair, and he was like estimated, it was like 1,200 pounds. It took so many rounds from all the soldiers, but the government obviously is suppressing this story. But
where they put it? Did they capture it?
Well, they took it, they netted it, and they hauled it away with a helicopter. And like I said, it was 1,200 pound. I forgot the exact height, but I'm guessing it was around 12 feet tall.
Is that the reddish hair? Is that the reddish hair? Yeah, I think Gary Wayne talked about something like that.
Oh, okay, right. Because of the people I was listening to, I could tell they were not lying. They were soldiers. They were
yeah, but
servicemen.
People can sound very compelling. I'm going to give you two.
I know.
I'm going to give you two scenarios, Darrin. People can sound very compelling. People are very good actors, but somebody will say, well, they're acting. They're obviously acting. Well, you can't always tell that they're acting. Sometimes they sound sincere and they're real good at it. But sometimes they're not acting, Darrin. Sometimes it's just something that they've encountered. They honestly believe that what they saw was what they saw. I'm not saying they're delusional. I'm saying something appeared to them that they equated to something like that, and they swear they saw it. That's why they can be adamant about it. And act sincere, because they probably are sincere. I can sincerely tell you that I once saw a spiritual entity, right? But how can I sell it to you, without a doubt, prove to you that I saw this entity besides my own testimony, my own eyewitness? And you say two testimonies are good, right? Substantial. Well, my wife saw it too, so that makes and somebody else in the household saw it too. So that's three testimonies of this entity. Would that make a strong argument in your eyes?
Of course.
Now, in all reality, all three of us could have been deceived. All three of us could have been under the same delusion. And I'm not saying we all basically imagined the same thing. What I'm saying is all three of us could have been put in illusion before us, either by our neighbors. Maybe our neighbors set something up and we didn't know, but they were trying to trick us. So we all saw it. We sincerely believe we saw something, but how do we know authentically that it was what we think we saw? But in all reality, I did some tests, and my own tests, and they passed. So I can't tell you what we saw. I can tell you what they look like to us. But if I told you that these things are spiritual beings that I saw, I can't prove it to you. I can only tell you about it. So it's basically firsthand information, but I'm speculating to you because I can't show you anything. Now, if I had a picture, that would be a secondary proof. And a picture would at least show you something. These guys in the past have some pictures. That's the only picture, I think, of Sasquatch we have, right?
Oh, no, there's others. In fact, I was going to get to that. Oh, just amazing.
All right, so we do have a couple pictures. So that would be like a close encounters of the second kind, And then if you had some scientific evidence, that would be harder proof. So before we get to if there's any, why don't you just continue while I just broke you up and ranted again? So just go ahead and
right. Well, you use the word evidence. That's also used in a court of law, but evidence and facts are two different things. Evidence can be verified or falsified, like I said, using the scientific method of reputability, observation, and measurement. And then you can come to a conclusion whether it's factual or fanciful. Yeah. So what we have is, first of all, I have videos. What I would like to do is recommend the listeners to go to Thinker Thunker. And one word, and this guy is probably the most analytical, objective, scientific researcher on this subject that I know of.
I think I've heard of that.
Yes, Thinker Thunker. He's got amazing videos here, and there's things that you're going to see. He's obviously he doesn't believe anything until he can prove it scientifically, because he was in one of the, I don't know if he's in aerospace. He's a scientist. He's deals with well, he's retired now, but he was with the I forgot what branch of government, but it dealt with perhaps aerodynamics, something like that. But he uses his scientific knowledge to study videos, and when you look at the videos that he says that they're not fake. He says, I'll let you decide. And so if somebody sees these videos, they're going to have a very difficult time believing that these creatures do not exist, because I've seen one is actually throwing a tree because there's loggers, clearing out the land. He threw the tree across the field. Another one was actually coming down a mount, like a side of a hill, and there's a big, huge herd of gazelle. I think that's what they were, like hundreds of them. And this thing was running down the field. He put them all right into the ocean, into the water there, because they all got scared. And he can estimate the size of this thing.
And he happened to catch that?
Well, he's got it on video, okay, and then what it is, he can calculate the size.
How did he catch it on video?
Because what happened was the film crew was there, and they were filming, and all of a sudden they noticed something running down a hill, and it turns out that the size of this thing, when he Thinker Thunker studied it, he says it's somewhere between 11 to 14 feet tall. It was all black, and it was capable. It was actually running about 40 miles an hour. So he's, being facetious, saying, all right, the camera crew had a black man wearing all black. He was about 12 feet tall, running 40 miles an hour. And the camera crew had no idea that they had an additional camera crew on set there. So he called the crew up and asked them if they were aware of this, extra camera crew. And obviously they said no. But so he says, all right, I'll let these people decide, the viewers. So that was just one instance. There's another one where he's... I think it was the Canadian Rockies. He was out. Some guy was out filming, and he seen something off in the distance. And this creature was actually huge, and it stepped down into a ditch that was half of its body height. And then when it stepped down, he did not flinch down. You know how when you land, you go down. His body remained perfectly erect, and his back leg was still on the top part of the ground there. So he had just one leg landing without flinching, half of your body height. I looked at a step that was 6 foot, so I stood up 3 feet, and I'm like, there's no chance of me trying this, because I don't want to be carried away in a stretcher, God forbid, because that's what would happen. These are videos that it's impossible to explain, from a human perspective. That's two right there.
But they have video. See how. There's crews that go out and try to track UFOs, and they're doing it all the time. Ghost hunters, things like that. They do eventually catch them. But how much, if these things are so remote, do you know how much time and effort and film they'd have to do to just hope that one day they meet up with these? Did they just know where to go? How did they catch up with these things and happen to get the video?
Well, that's the thing.
That's a question I have,
Well, the thing is, it's just people have their most people have cell phones nowadays,
Yeah.
And then you're out in the woods, just you find something. The word "find" actually in God's word means to come across unexpectedly.
Yeah, but was this with cell phones, or was this with film crew?
The film crew was one of them. That was the one I was talking about there. That was that was something different. But for instance, I'm going to try to come up with one here. It's a guy was at a truck stop in Oregon, yeah, and he heard some howls, and he actually recorded it. And then Thinker Thunker finally did a test on it, and he has what's called sonic fingerprints. He can test using advanced equipment on various sound waves, and he tested like a human, which has the most distinct sound out of all creatures. And then you have the wolf. He tested virtually everything that could have been possible: mountain lion, coyotes. And then he did this howl right here. There was several of them. And he said there's no chance this was any one of them. I'm going to try to find it and just play. That would be a nice background noise here. But
Don't freak us out, Darrin.
And then there's another one called. You're going to put these on your page, right? But
I'll put it on there.
All right, great. Yep. So there's no. Oh yeah, I also went to one of those gatherings there several years ago, up in Whitehall, New York.
Yeah.
And that happens to be like the Bluff Creek East Coast capital hotspot of the world. There.
So they see him there.
Yes. That is like
In our area, they see them in
in our area.
in
Yep,
Adirondacks and stuff.
Yep, it's east of Lake George,
Yeah,
New
I know
York. It's just about an hour north of Albany for the people, in case they're
Oh,
wondering.
yeah,
New
they
York
don't
State,
know. Yeah,
right? New York State, USA.
it's up above Fort Anne and all that.
Yeah, right. Yep,
Yeah.
just to the east of the mountain. And so I went there and I talked to actually 6 different people that had firsthand encounters of these creatures. They go there because they know other people seen them, and this one not going to sound like they're crazy because everybody will believe what they're saying. So I talked to a couple. They were in their 60s and they were at Lake George and going on their boat up, way up, and then how it branches off. And they went around this one curve, turned off their engine, and they kept coasting. And they went around another curve. And then as they go to the bank, they seen something off in the distance that was on like digging, and it was black, hairy, and they said it was just so huge. That's all they couldn't emphasize enough. And then it turned around and like looked at them, and they got the expression on his face like, oh, they seen me. Darn it, So he got all frustrated. So it stood up and then ran up the hill. Okay, so the biggest black bears in the Adirondacks are about 400 to 450 pounds. They said this thing was gigantic. I'm like, is it a black bear? They're like, no way. It was just huge. And black bears, or any type of bear, doesn't stand up in its legs and then run up a hill. They don't have hands either. This thing had hands and was digging. So
don't they have plaques up there about sightings?
Yeah. Whitehall, New York, they even have like a statue.
Yeah, they
dedicated.
have plaques and stuff up there.
Right. And if people don't believe these exist, go to Happy Camp, California. There's like the Bigfoot motel. There's a Bigfoot service towing. If you ever look, you look at the terrain around there. It's not the most suburban, urban area in the country. If you know what I'm saying. That's all you got to do is camp out there. But so there's no doubt in my mind. Like I said, I talked to 600 people. I even talked to Bobo from Finding Bigfoot. Animal Planets. I've got his autograph and everything. But he actually seen one firsthand. So
wow.
Yeah, but so now the question is not do they exist? They exist. Okay, if people are skeptical, that's great. You got to be skeptical. Nothing wrong with that. But the evidence is overwhelmingly in favor. In fact, to say that they do not exist, you have to have people on the Earth. I didn't say planet, by the way, either. If you know that, people on the Earth everywhere, looking behind every rock, under every ditch, every cave, simultaneously. To verify the factual, statement that these things do not exist. Obviously, you can't do that. So
I'm going to ask you one question then, and I know you got the answer for it. But people are going to say, "How come we haven't turned up? Like animals are out there in the wild. How come we haven't found any of Sasquatch's bones or biological evidence or even their poop?"
Good question. Well, we have found scat poop.
Okay.
There's just I have seen videos of that. And now the thing is, why don't we find bear bones, lion bones?
Mm-hmm. We don't.
What else? We rarely, if ever.
Really?
We find predator bones are so rare, and Sasquatch is actually a predator.
I got to look this up.
Absolutely. You're not going to see bear bones. I've never seen any. I don't even know what a bear bone looks like. I'm 57. That should hopefully answer your question.
Well,
there.
I know, but we're also in the city, in the suburban area. So
true. But many people have been in the woods, though.
Oh, here's an article. Where are the bones? A logical question. When discussing the possibility of Sasquatches being real animals, often the question is, why don't we find their bones? And usually the answer is, if bears and mountain lions are real, and we don't find, why don't we find their bones? So I guess that's your answer. You're saying what this guy is saying.
Right. Exactly. I mean, the evidence is so overwhelming that of their existence that I find it almost impossible not to believe it. So
all right. So you don't have like the scientific proof, but you have.
Well, we
logical proof of that people seen it, and the fact that so many people have witnessed it, that there has to be something to it. They're seeing something. So,
well, here's the thing with Thinker Thunker, the videos that he shows that these things are, as they're walking along, he does the body proportion ratios, and they're not human, because humans and their leg bones in relation to their torso are pretty much like even. and then their arms are only like I think it's 40% of their body. But when you look at these things, he shows how the torso is way too long to be a human, and the arms are way too long. So that's actual proof right there. If you want, that's not just evidence, but that's a fact. So when you see something walking, in the articulation of the elbows and knee joints, prove that these limbs, these extremities, are actually part of the creature, attached to their to their torso. So that right there proves that they're not human. What are they? What are they? What else can they be? It's Sasquatch.
Yeah, but what are? I mean, like, do you before we get into other things, are they creatures of nature? Are they left over from fossil animal? Like, could they be left over from the primordial age, or are they mutants?
Right, the origin of them. Well, there's something in the fossil record called Gigantopithecus, but some leading whatever this guy says, no, it's kind of like a bear and a panda. They say a panda is not a bear. It looks like a bear to me, but according to the scientists, they say no, a panda is not a bear. But these are not actually Gigantopithecus, but they're similar. So if we have them in the fossil record, then we have like the silverback gorilla, over 400 pounds. Why not something very similar to both of these? Does that make sense?
I guess.
Yeah. It's so the question is, what's the origin? Did God make these on day 6? That's what I'd like to know.
Yeah.
Well, or are they a government
all right,
creation?
so let's get into that then.
Mm-hmm.
So you said you could tie it. What does the government have to do with it? Like, it could be a government. You're saying like a island of Dr. Moreau, or
Right.
let's say this Montauk. There was some
Montauk Project.
there was
Exactly.
some suspicions so you're thinking that if anything, maybe these things were like experimental things.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
So
also,
they don't
as
have
well.
to be real, like, supernatural beings that we don't know what they could be, something left over from these experiments or something, right?
Right. Exactly. It's. I mean, the evidence of their existence is overwhelming. First of all, so I think we kind of proved that, hopefully.
Yeah.
But now, like I said, now we're asking.
Something out there. Something out there
Right.
people are seeing. Like, we can't doubt that. So there's people that have seen it.
But here's the thing: when people submit like forensic evidence to the government is very slow in taking their time and giving the results. And when these people have they have evidence of, like I said, hair samples. They've seen the creature firsthand encountered, and then they subject this evidence to the government. Like I said, it takes so long for them to come back, and when they do, they tell them it was like a raccoon.
Yeah, a raccoon or a bear or something.
I don't know how many raccoons have red hair and they weigh about 800 pounds. Yeah. So this is the government right here. So they're deliberately suppressing this information.
Well, we know that the government wouldn't be out there saying, like, you see a UFO sighting. The first thing they do is they send men in black out there, and they say, all right, well, we'll take over here. This is now a government project. And, wait a minute. You say we saw a UFO. We have evidence of this. Now you're sending people out there, and you're telling us you're taking over, and we'll never know anything about it because you're going to lie to us and tell us, oh, it was just a weather balloon. But yet you sent all these agents over here to tell us it's a weather balloon? Something's odd about that. But the fact that they're going to cover it up, you don't think that they're going to admit that they did see something or have evidence? Like, you give it to the government. They're not going to say, hey, you know what, Mr. Jones, you're right. This is a Bigfoot. They're going to say, no, we can't admit to anything. So they're never going to tell you anyway.
Right, exactly.
So either way, but the fact that they took it seriously to come out to investigate or took a sample and said, we're going to test this, says something, because otherwise they just say, nah, throw that away, kid. That's, you're bothering us with with that deer hair or something,
Right. In fact, Mount St. Helens that erupted in May of 1980, afterwards they'd seen some, evidence of, they found Sasquatch remains. The government, people actually did, and the government suppressed this information. So if people want to Google that too and see what you can find there.
But that doesn't tell whether the government created this or whether they're just hiding the fact that they don't want to tell people that
Well,
it's true or whatever. They wouldn't
well,
tell
here's
you
the
that
thing:
anyway.
when people find Nephilim bones and they hand them
Right.
as good citizens over to the
Yeah.
Smithsonian Institute, where do they go? Into the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah.
So we have so much evidence, fossilized evidence, scientific proof that the Nephilim exist. There's no way you can deny that. So, and hopefully I'm making a case that these things exist too, and they're doing the exact same thing with Bigfoot. So the Nephilim we know that they're the fallen angels. We know all the story about that.
Well,
so,
they say that the Nephilim are the offspring of the fallen angels.
You're right, the offspring, right? Of the Watchers, who shapeshifted and mated with earthly women and produced the hybridized,
Right. And then, but they died out supposedly. But
well, the Bible does say and after in terms of the flood of Noah's
before
day,
and after,
implying that they're still in existence. That's why the servicemen in Afghanistan seeing that 16 foot, 1,200-pound red hairy Nephilim, hauling it away in a helicopter net. That's more than an imagination in my estimation. So I think these things are closely related, the Nephilim and these Sasquatch, because we have Indian legends. We have in Australia, Canada, we have Russia, we have actually video footage. I was surprised the History Channel had actually.
In all due respect, the Indians also think that the volcanoes are alive. I'm just kidding.
No, that's good. That's but I seen
they have a lot of legends, is what I'm saying.
Right. Actually, there's cave paintings too, pictograms and hieroglyphics of carbon dated. Which is good for thousands of years. But they show these hairy, large beings next to people. So it's
all right.
In fact, Russia, I think it was a History Channel had a documentary on some campers in Russia. They actually showed the film, and it showed these people actually getting killed by a Sasquatch.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Russia.
So they are harmful?
In Russia, I guess
in Russia they're harmful. Yeah, in Russia everything's harmful.
Yeah,
they're drinking that vodka, and they're like, "I gotta get those humans."
It's
that Russian vodka do it to you every time.
But they're much more kind-hearted in the U.S. and Canada, so we're safe over here.
Yeah, because we're not sucking down the vodka, going, "All right, we're gonna get you. We're gonna kill you." So you have a tie-in to the secret societies. I got to hear this.
Well, that's the thing. Right here, it's the secret societies. The cabal, the elites ruling the world with knowing about the Nephilim, how they're suppressing that information. We kind of tied it in here, and why would they suppress Sasquatch?
Why would they?
That's the thing. I don't know. Is it part of their experiment? Is it part of their creation? Is it disproving evolution? That's the part that just.
Is it the missing link? They could use it to prove evolution.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? If they really wanted to, they could say, hey, we haven't found a missing link. Because, it's a known fact. And this guy, did you hear about the story of the evolutionary conference in 1988? I can't remember where it was. And this one Christian guy went in. He was invited, I guess, as a scientist, pseudoscientist. And they invited him in. And they admitted at the conference, they said, the one thing we can't find is the missing link, but we know we'll find it someday. They still had a hope of it, but they said, if we don't find it, we are sorry to say that we won't have any explanation to deny God's creation. So they deliberately need to find this missing link. But the fact that even despite trying to fabricate it a couple times, they have no missing link. They have a fossil record of certain things, and then they have man, but everything else is speculated. Well, we don't have any of the in-between transitions, but that's okay because they went from A to B, or let's say this, they went from A to Z in one fell swoop. And that's what they're trying to prove with evolution. There is no missing link. All they can do is come up with speculations. Well, the whale has this vertebrae that has a sort of appendix that's like a appendage or whatever it's called, that's like a leg. So therefore, there could be like a missing link within the actual species. That doesn't pass because you have to have the transitional stages, the transitional types that lead from an amoeba or a fish to humans, from a reptile to humans, and you have not that jump. That jump isn't there. And my point is if they wanted to, they could say, well, the Sasquatch is kind of like a monkey and a man. Hey, this would be great fodder for our proof of having this thing that we don't have. Let's bring this out. You'd think they would applaud the Bigfoot as a transitional type, the closest thing they can actually come up with. The only thing they can come up with. But, if they don't have nothing, that's better than nothing, right?
Well, they don't mind.
Did I just give them a bunch of ideas?
They don't mind. It seems like they don't mind evolution that much. Like I should say creation. But for some reason, when you talk about Nephilim, then you get the Men in Black. If you say you've seen them and have evidence of these it's of the Nephilim, or for some reason Bigfoot, I don't know. They don't seem to be as stringent.
Yeah. Well, look what happened to and I'm not supporting Steve Quayle. He's on Coast to Coast. He's done a lot of stuff, and some people suspected that I think he's passed since. They suspected that he was an agent, CIA or Freemason and stuff. But I'm not going to get into that. But him and Tim Alberino did some searching in this documentary they had called Legends, and they did this searching for bones, and they found the fossils, remote places they visited. They weren't allowed to go in, but they got clearance to go into some places that they had to be obscure about what they were looking for. And when they found out they were looking for the bones, they kicked them out. But they caught some of the pictures and stuff, and they tried to prove that the Nephilim, that there are giants that they're suppressing, and the government came after them. Matter of fact, Tim Alberino had a story where his family was poisoned. They put some gas through his house, and at first the firefighter said that this was. It seems like foul play. And then later on, he caught the firefighter. He was at the hospital getting treated, and he caught the firefighter going by, and he goes, "Hey, come here. What did you find out?" And the firefighter says, "Oh, nothing suspicious here. Everything's fine. No, you weren't a victim." And he changed his whole story. And he says, "Wait a minute, how can you?" And the guy goes, "I can't talk to you right now." He was told not to talk to him. So, the government intervened when it comes to proving giants like that. So you'd think they'd intervene, when it comes to Sasquatch and such. But I guess they don't have to, because there's been so many tabloids. Like, how many, remember all the tabloids, Bigfoot ate my child?
Yes.
I mean, come on. And then
how do you know that didn't happen, though?
Because you go searching the names, and the names don't come up. They can't find the people. I mean, you got to remember, the Inquirer was. Do you remember the Men in Black movie where it says?
Yes.
They said, where do we find the news for our leads? And he goes, "Oh, in the Inquirers, in the tabloids." And they go, "Well, they're fake." He goes, "That's what people think, but they don't realize these are real stories that people don't really believe in, and." This is our firsthand evidence that we follow. What if it was like that, I mean,
Right. Yep.
I mean, the tabloids back then, conspiracy, I mean, they were so far-fetched. But, today we're believing in conspiracy theories, and the tabloids, I guess, are our podcasts. I guess we are the new tabloids.
Right. Well, hopefully I proved that Bigfoot is not a conspiracy theory.
Well, you gave us some things to consider, there are people that take it seriously. I'm going to say that. Right. I'm not going to jump in the hands of I know Sasquatch is real.
Right.
Just because
unless you've seen it.
Unless I've seen it. Yeah, I'm going to be what's that, Missouri, or the Missouri Outlook, where you don't believe it till you see it. I forget what they call that, but sorry about those in Missouri if that's not your quote, but you gotta see it to believe it. But I can't deny that somebody didn't see something. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. All right.
Well, I like to say, all right, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, these people I talked to, the 6 or 7 that I can tell
you've talked to people.
Yeah, they weren't lying.
All
I can
right,
tell. I
all
know when
right.
somebody's
Well,
lying to me.
you've
and,
talked to people firsthand then.
firsthand.
All
Absolutely.
right, so
Yep.
you didn't get
Yep.
that from a report from somebody talking to somebody. You talked to a couple people, couple eyewitnesses, right?
6 or 7. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, good. But
Yep.
you're closer. You're closer to being more of a researcher on this than I would be.
Oh, yeah,
So,
I've been doing this for years. I love the
yeah, but I
topic.
mean,
Yeah.
you talk to people firsthand. That's
Mhm.
something that's one step above some of the listeners that'll say, "I don't believe it. I don't believe it. These eyewitnesses are fake." I mean, they
Mhm.
might. They might have been deceived. I don't know, but they did see something. You talked to them firsthand, so you're
Mhm.
above some of the people that claim there's no evidences, there are no witnesses.
Right.
And so at least you talk to people that claim to see it. That's better
Mhm.
than some of us who just basically dispute it out of not having any evidence at all. So I don't know.
And there's actually videos of trees being ripped out of the ground.
Yeah.
Actually, just shaking too. I'll show you a video. They can watch that too. I mean, this is not like a truck winch or anything. This is just something just massively pushing these pine trees.
Why did they need to push the pine trees?
Well, because they're strong enough.
So they did it just to show off?
Well, they do that for territory. They just because they do it because they can.
So bears rub up against a tree to claim their territory. Bigfoots drag trunks right out of the ground and prove their territory.
Yeah, there's no way even the largest Kodiak could push some of these trees over. These things have immense strength.
Okay.
All
right.
I'll send the video. People can watch it. You're going to have links of all the stuff I'm going to send you, right?
Yeah. I'll put it in the show notes.
And it does affect them. If you live in the U.S., if you're going to go out camping, there's some strange stuff out there in the woods, including these things. So
just be careful when camping. Bears are nothing. You got to fear that. Forget the bears.
Yeah.
Now you're gonna have everybody fearful to go camping, and just like Jaws, everybody was afraid to go in the water.
On the water, yeah.
You're gonna have everybody afraid to go in the woods.
Oh, if you heard some of the stuff I've seen.
I ain't going in the woods, just to be careful.
And the government definitely knows about them, and they're suppressing the information. Yep,
all right. Okay, I'll give you that. All right. My website is jimdukeperspective.com, or you can go to Jim Duke Inquirer. No, I'm just kidding. Check out the website for some of the information besides Sasquatch that I have, because this is the first time I have presented anything like this. But we have all other kinds of information about the New World Order. I specialize in New World Order, Illuminati information. I research and find books that are about it, and I report what I have read, what I've discovered myself, what I suspect, what I speculate, and I put the nuts and bolts together about that. Darrin does the Sasquatch stuff. I don't do that. So at least we have him on that end. So anyway, so you could check it out, and subscribe to us on any of your favorite podcast players. We're on any of them, all of them, and you could listen right from my website, jimdukeperspective.com, or you can listen at our host, Spreaker.com. And I do have a YouTube channel, a secondary one after my first one got banned. But I put some of the videos on, and you can check that out too. But that's not the full catalog. The full catalog is going to be on the podcast. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. God bless.